5 million people flooded the streets of Buenos Aires on a Tuesday morning in December 2022. The Argentine government had declared a national holiday overnight. The victory parade had to be abandoned midway through. The crowds were so massive that the players' bus physically could not move. Messi and his teammates were airlifted out by helicopter. 5 million people, one city, one football match. That is what winning the World Cup does to a country. Not just excitement, something deeper, something that looks less like a sports celebration and more like a country remembering who it is. Argentina had waited 36 years for that moment. Their last title was 1986, the tournament of Diego Maradona, widely considered the greatest individual World Cup performance in history. In those 36 years, Argentina had lost 2 finals, 1990 and 2014. They had Lionel Messi, the most decorated individual player the sport has ever produced, and for years that wasn't enough. Every tournament without the title felt like a verdict that Messi, despite everything, had failed his country. The 2022 win wasn't just about ending the drought. It was about restoring national pride, honoring the legacy of Maradona, and finally giving Messi the trophy he had spent his entire career chasing. One fan interviewed in Buenos Aires that night captured it simply. "I feel an immense happiness in my heart because this is the first World Cup I truly enjoy," said Hector Quinteros, a 34-year-old security guard, his eyes filling with tears. "This always happens. They always make us suffer." During the earlier rounds, something beautiful had gone viral. 2 men celebrating in the streets came across an elderly woman alone on a corner, wearing a mask and waving an Argentine flag. They surrounded her, jumping and chanting. She became a symbol, and they returned to her corner after every subsequent victory, each time with more people, more drums, more flags. That woman on the corner is what the World Cup actually produces. Not just trophies, moments where strangers become the same person for one night in one street. 24 years earlier, France experienced something similar, but with a dimension Argentina's victory didn't have. France in 1998 was a country in the middle of a difficult conversation about identity and immigration. The national team that won the tournament was built on diversity in a way that had never been seen before. Players of North African, Caribbean, and Sub-Saharan African descent playing alongside players from traditional French backgrounds, all under one flag. Before 1998, French football had been defined by what commentators called a culture of glorious defeat, a nobility in failure that had over the years become a genuine psychological burden. The country had helped create the World Cup, but it never won it. When Zinedine Zidane, the son of Algerian immigrants born in the working-class neighborhoods of Marseille, headed in 2 goals in the final against Brazil, something shifted. The impact was so special, said striker Stéphane Guivarc'h, because it became far more than football. For the first time, French people of all origins had something in common. Apart from the liberation of the country after World War II, nothing had ever brought France together like this. The victory catalyzed a national sense of pride and solidarity, reshaping how French society talked about multiculturalism and what it meant to be French. That conversation, started by a football match, outlasted the trophy. 4 years later, France was still debating what the team represented and whether the unity of 1998 had been real or temporary. The answer, historians concluded, was both. The moment was real, the unity was real, and it was also temporary, because a country's deepest tensions don't dissolve because of a football result. But for one summer, they paused. And sometimes, that's enough. Every country that wins the World Cup gets a version of this. Streets that fill before anyone organizes anything. Strangers embracing. Old grievances bracely set aside. It doesn't fix economies. It doesn't resolve political divisions. The morning after always arrives. But for one night, in Buenos Aires, in Paris, in cities that stop entirely because 11 people on a pitch did something remarkable, a country remembers what it feels like to want the same thing. That's what winning the World Cup does, and it only happens once every 4 years. Subscribe. Next episode, the players who were good enough, dedicated enough, and unlucky enough to spend their entire careers without ever playing in one. The greatest footballers who never got their World Cup.